Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2013, directed by Jim Mickle, and this film is called We Are What We Are. So We Are What We Are is about this community in somewhere in the United States. You've got this family who are very strange. They've got ancient traditions and they very much like to keep to themselves. So you've got a mother, a father, and an elderly sort of daughter, and also a younger daughter. So one day the mother ends up dying. Now the mother was the matriarch of this family. She basically got the wheels moving, and now without her there is a massive dent in the family. So the distraught father says to the eldest daughter, you're going to have to step up and be that female figure that the family sorely needs. It's a lot of responsibility for a girl of her age, but she needs to grow up very quickly in order to do this. So it's a lot of responsibility, but it's ultimately too much responsibility, and it starts to basically deteriorate on her mental state. So as the complications on this dilemma start to arise, even further complications are going to arise when the doctor of this community gets a suspicion that the missing person list in this community might have something to do with the ancient traditions of this family. So the doctor starts to talk to the sheriff and the sheriff's deputy, and they start to do a little bit of investigation into what will ultimately be a terrifying secret that is threatening to basically destroy everybody. So what that secret is, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on We Are What We Are. This is one of the very rare occasions where I actually felt the American remake actually beats the foreign original. Now when it comes to the foreign original, 3 years previous it was from Mexico. Now this is a movie that depicts a lot of very relevant themes of coping with the loss of a loved one who had such an influence on the family, and how destructive it can be, and the new pecking order, and basically the children having to grow up very quickly in order to care for their brothers and sisters and loved ones, and also the alienation of strange people, when they've got traditions that might not necessarily match modern traditions, how they can be put on the outer and how they can be alienated. So a lot of themes in the original that were actually very interesting and makes the film somewhat watchable, but unfortunately that movie, it lacked a lot of professional quality, it lacked a lot of development in the characters. I thought the characters were non-existent, and so although you've got a very troubling theme, I thought that theme really wasn't portrayed as well as it could have been. I thought the overall pacing of the film was very bland. It didn't really elevate itself. It just felt like you're watching a movie about a family struggling to cope, and you've got the family dynamics, but it's interweaved with the horror theme. Now that horror theme, it was ever present in the original, but you never really felt uneasy. So the movie wasn't very memorable, and I thought that this is a prime candidate for a remake, and when it finally got made into this remake, I wasn't really dreading it, because I thought to myself, if it could take the negatives from the original and really capitalise off that, it would be a memorable film. And ultimately that's exactly what We Are remake does so well, is that it takes the problems that the original has and it actually makes them better as far as the atmosphere is concerned. I thought this is a very gothic feeling. It felt like a horror film. It felt like you were watching a tragic sort of tale of a family's basically destruction, and a family's ancient traditions being engulfed by modern traditions, and how we see people who are different to us and how we put them on the outer. I thought it was very well portrayed in the remake. I thought the acting was very good. I loved the dynamics within this family, and that was something that was missing in the original. Is that dynamics? Is that you actually want to know more about this family, and that the original was very vague, whereas this movie gives you a little bit more. It is vague to some degree, but it does give you more character development where you can actually feel like this is a situation you care about, and whether or not these two girls are going to last through this ordeal, you actually want to know about it. But in the original, from about the halfway point, you start to become desensitized to their plight, their dilemma, and it just meanders along. But I thought this movie had a much better pacing. It had a very good atmosphere, as I said, very dark and gloomy, very gothic-like, and it was actually a very nasty film, and the nastiness of the movie matched the nastiness of the themes, and it matched the nastiness of the depressing nature that the movie has. I really like Michael Parks as the Doctor. Michael Parks is a very good actor. I really like him. He's in a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. He was also in Tusk from Kevin Smith. Really like that guy. He plays the Doctor, and I felt a lot of sympathy for this guy. And that's ultimately another problem in the original, is that apart from the family, no one else you really care about. But this movie, I really cared about the plight of the Doctor. And I thought his dilemmas were, his dilemmas, you could understand why he was investigating this family. And so there's more than just family dynamics, whereas in the original it's just basically about the family and how they're going to cope, and the rest of it's just cannon fodder, cardboard cutouts, whereas this movie has a lot more going for it apart from just the sole focus on this family who are very strange. So the ending is very shocking. I will tell you that it is quite gruesome, so if you're not prepared for something of more extreme violence, be very careful. But I like the fact that the violence wasn't overused, and that's something I liked about the original as well, is that it wasn't a gore fest. It just keeps it to a point where it's enough to show you the horrifying sort of situation that this family is in. So the original wasn't bad by any means, but I will say that the remake does, it takes the negatives from in the original and it makes it better. I wouldn't say it's a perfect film. I will say right at the end I didn't really like the way it finished, and ultimately this movie doesn't have the memorable quality of great horror films, but it's still a very atmospheric film that does capitalise off the mistakes of the original and makes it better. So if you like the original Mexican We Are What We Are, then you're definitely going to find something in this one. So it's coming recommended, one of the rare occasions where I actually like a remake, and I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.